All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig in a Pickle Krueg Show with a little 49er video. As I put out a tweet yesterday that got a lot of attention, we'll talk about it, and we'll talk about what the Niners need to do to get over the top and to compete to win Super Bowl 60, which this year is at Levi's Stadium. We'll talk about it coming up next. First, we're brought to you by Pig in a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Get some brisket. Get some brisket chili. Tell them the Krueg sent you. We're also brought to you by Sharp Corners, Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California, on the Monterey Peninsula. Call Anthony Catania. He's the owner there. He's at 831-521-5264. And he's a great follow on Instagram at Sharp Corners 831 on the gram. And we are also brought to you by Mancini's. But first, we'll have a word from Mancini's in a bit. All right, let's talk a little bit about a tweet that I put out yesterday that got a lot of attention. And it was on the 49ers. And I just basically, here it is. I said the 49ers are 3 moves away from a trip to Santa Clara for Super Bowl 60. In my opinion, the Niners need 3 pieces to the puzzle. They need another receiver. Doesn't have to be a superstar receiver, but they need another receiver for Brock Purdy. They need another defensive back who's either versatile and can man a number of spots or can play corner, preferably outside. That would allow Diamador Lenore to play inside and allow Upton Stout to kind of grow slowly into the job since he is a rookie coming out of Western Kentucky. And then the third one is I think they need more pass rush. 49ers need more pass rush. The Niners were not good at sacking the quarterback. They've devoted an awful lot to their run defense up front. And they signed Huff to be that edge rusher. So they got Bryce Huff. So it's not like they haven't done anything to improve their pass rush. But to me, those are the 3 spots. One more receiver, one more DB, one more guy up front who's versatile and can play in a bunch of different spots and provide some pass rush. So I put out this tweet. The 49ers are 3 moves away from a trip to Santa Clara for Super Bowl 60. The first trade, I said, trade Brandon Aiyuk to the Commanders for Terry McLaurin. Win-win trade. Daniels gets his guy Aiyuk, who's younger and potentially better receiver. The Niners get a healthy receiver right now. So, there was a lot of people going, why would the Commanders do that? Well, the Commanders would do that because they like Brandon Aiyuk. The Commanders would do that because they feel like Brandon Aiyuk is a guy that is going to have a great career after this year. I'll stop sharing the screen on the tweet, and we can share the screen on Chase Senior has a buddy on here that that proposed this trade. He says, my guy Jack Sperry proposed this Brandon Aiyuk for Terry McLaurin trade. Would you pull the trigger? Sperry's trade is the Commanders get Aiyuk and next year's second-round pick, and the Niners get Terry McLaurin and cash to help pay Terry McLaurin's contract. So, would you do that deal? You could argue that the Commanders are getting the better, younger receiver, but it's deferred gratification because he's not going to be ready till November. There's also some unknown with Aiyuk because he's coming off a major knee injury. With the Niners, they get a healthy receiver, but they also get an older receiver who wants a new contract. And are they in a rush to give an older receiver in Terry McLaurin a new contract? Probably not. But to me, it's not necessarily about Aiyuk, moving Aiyuk, or getting McLaurin specifically. It's more about, I just think they need another receiver. Let's take a look at the 49ers depth chart at receiver. And, it's okay, but it's not great. And it's easy to look at this and go, man, that could be a one area that kind of derails them. So here's the 49ers depth chart. We'll put it on the screen here, and you guys can take a look at wide receiver. Here it is. And So you have Aiyuk, but he's probably not going to play till November. Maybe he'll play in October, but it'll probably be November. So you don't know what you got there. Debo obviously is now a Commander. He's on a different team, so he's gone. So you have Ricky Pearsall, who's really not done much except for 2 good games at the end of last year, but he's been hurt a lot. You have Juwan Jennings in a contract year, but, he was a 7th-round pick 5 years ago. So, to ask him to be the number 1 receiver is probably a tall ask. Then you brought in Demarcus Robinson, and he's looked really good in the minicamp. He can free himself open down the field. He's very refined in his route running, but he's also probably going to miss 3 games because of the DUI that he had. So you're not going to have him weeks 1, 2, or 3. So you have Jordan Watkins, who's your 4th-round pick out of Ole Miss, who I love, runs in the 4.3s. You have Jacob Cowing, who was your 4th-round pick last year, who also runs in the 4.3s and has looked really, really good. And then after that, it's just kind of a hodgepodge of guys. Russell Gage, no. Tariq Owens, no. Malik Knowles, interesting return capability, no. And then you've got 3 intriguing guys. You've got Isaiah Nayer, who's a physical freak, but probably is headed to the practice squad. You have Isaiah Hodgins, who's a possession receiver in the truest sense of the word, and a veteran, journeyman. And then you have Junior Bergen, who's a return guy, who they have high hopes that he will be a very dynamic return guy. So to me, it just looks like you're about a wide receiver short, and it doesn't have to be that you trade Brandon Aiyuk for Terry McLaurin. You don't even have to trade Brandon Aiyuk at all. But I think it does behoove the Niners to take a look at any and all available wide receivers that come available. So we'll stop sharing the screen on the Niner depth chart. And now I'm going to show you an article, an ESPN article, written about Malachi Corley. This is another receiver that I kind of think the 49ers should have some interest in. And it's interesting. He's got, it's written by Rich Cimini. We've had Rich on before. He says the Jets wide receiver Malachi Corley has lots to prove in his 2nd year. So basically, Malachi Corley, it's interesting. Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas, who's now in Philadelphia as an assistant to Howie Roseman, the former regime of the Jets, supposedly Saleh texted a photo of Malachi Corley to Joe Douglas during the draft saying, Malachi Corley in round 3 no matter what. And Douglas texted back no matter what. And obviously it's a copy of Kevin Costner playing Sonny Weaver, who wrote a pre-draft note to himself, Vontae Mack, no matter what. And so that's what they were joking about. And then Corley, there was high hopes early. He's when they drafted him, he's like, man, I'm going to move in with Aaron Rodgers, and they're like dreaming the big dream. And then he had a bad rookie year, and the only notable moment he had was when he spiked the ball at the 1-yard line, negating his only touchdown. That was really what he was known for. And now it's not even a definite that he makes the team. I mean, it's they've got Garrett Wilson, they've got Josh Reynolds, Alan Lazard, Xavier Gibson is their return guy of note. They have Tyler Johnson. Their 4th-round pick was Arian Smith. I've heard them talk him up a ton this spring and how good he looked in the minicamp. That's 6. You got Jamal Pritchett, an undrafted rookie from South Alabama, who impressed the Jets mightily in the spring, and they're saying could push for a roster spot. So that's 7. So Malachi Corley right now might be sitting somewhere between 6 and 8 on a depth chart that's probably going to include 5 or 6 guys. So there's a very good chance that Malachi Corley doesn't make this team, or that Malachi Corley gets shopped at the end of camp for a day 3 pick because it looks like he's not going to make this team. And he, in a lot of ways, is very much like a Deebo Samuel. His reputation at Western Kentucky is that, he racked up 2,000 yards after the catch from 2021 through 2023, 400 more yards than the next closest player in the FBS. So in a lot of ways, he's a perfect fit for the 49ers. Now, he wasn't good as a rookie. He needed refinement with his route running. Many rookies struggle to run routes. But if you don't want to trade Brandon Aiyuk for Terry McLaurin because you don't think that's realistic, That's fine. And it's not like I'm tied to that trade, but go after this guy. Go after Malachi Corley, and you probably could get him for a 7th-round pick or maybe a 5th-round pick, and you might be able to get him for nothing at the cut down. The Jets may wind up cutting Malachi Corley in late August, and that would be a guy that if I were the 49ers, I would absolutely pick him up, and I would pick him up quickly. I would not think twice about it. So that's trade number 1. All right, so trade number 2, and we'll stop sharing the screen on that. Trade number 2, I've got my gardener here making lots and lots and lots and lots of noise. Trade number 2 is also interesting. It would send a 6th-round pick to the Dolphins for Jalen Ramsay, the future Hall of Famer. And to me, I think the more I look at the 49ers, first of all, the Niners are $42 million under the cap. Most cap room of any team in football. They've got a lot of money. What they don't have is a lot of quality defensive backs. And they signed 7 new corners and 10 new defensive backs because they're just throwing a bunch of stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks. And here's an opportunity to just take your financial situation, trade a 6th-round pick. I don't think it's going to take more than that to the Dolphins and get a guy he's a very smart player who can play outside and let Lenore play where he's best. Diamador Lenore is one of the NFL's best slot corners. Why you would take him off the slot and put him outside for Upton Stout, I don't think that's wise. Now, if you get Ramsey could potentially play the slot, and then you could play Lenore outside. Ramsey potentially could play either safety spot. He's mentioned that he'd like to finish his career at safety. He's a very, very smart player, and he's a very athletic player, and he's a Hall of Famer. And I don't think because of the contract, he's owed $20+ million. I don't think you'd have to give much to get him. Probably a 5th or 6th-round pick in next year's draft gets it done. If you really think you're a Super Bowl contender, and let's be honest, you think Trent Williams is going to be better next year than this year? You think George Kittle is going to be better next year? You think Nick Bosa is going to be better next year? You think Fred Warner is going to be better next year? This is the Niners' best chance to get a ring because their great players are still loosely connected to their prime. They're in the twilight in a lot of cases, but they're going to be better this year than they're going to be in a year. So this would be the year to go for it. And if you could get a Jalen Ramsay, first of all, you'd block him from going to the Rams, which already is a win. You'd get a versatile player. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Upton Stout's going to be great. Maybe you don't want Jalen Ramsay playing a slot corner. Maybe you want him playing outside. Maybe there's an injury outside. You need him out there. Maybe maybe one of those safeties doesn't come of age. The nice thing about Ramsay is Ramsay can play everywhere. He says he can play free safety or strong safety. We've seen him play slot corner. We know he can play outside. And if you want everybody in their best spot, I would say the best corner combo you could come up with would be Jalen Ramsay opposite Renardo Green outside, Diamador Lenore inside, and when you go to a 4th and 5th DB, here comes Upton Stout. And that's a role that I think is more appropriate for a 3rd-round rookie out of Western Kentucky than to ask him to be the every down starter at slot corner on a team that has Super Bowl aspirations, or at least should. So this is kind of the move that will tell you how the Niners see themselves. If John Lynch thinks this is a rebuilding team, Ramsey makes no sense. If John Lynch thinks this is a team that can win a championship, then Ramsey does make a lot of sense. And putting Upton Stout in more of a 4th or 5th DB role as a 3rd-round rookie out of Western Kentucky probably is the smarter play. But it really comes down to what does Lynch think of his team. If he thinks they're a Super Bowl contender, go get Jalen Ramsay. Go get Jalen Ramsay. Spend that money. Get that versatile defensive back that can play everywhere, especially since you don't know where your hole is going to come from. If you think you're a Super Bowl contender, the Ramsey deal is a no-brainer. If you don't think you're a Super Bowl contender, the Ramsey deal is a no-brainer the other way. There's no way in hell you would do that trade unless you thought you were a Super Bowl contender. So I'll leave it to Lynch. If he thinks they're a Super Bowl contender, go get Ramsey. If you don't think you're a Super Bowl contender, stay with Upton Stout and, as you say, take your lumps. All right, let's get to trade number 3. Trade number 3 sends Robert Beal and next year's second-round pick and then a conditional pick in the mid-rounds in 27 to the Bengals for Shamar Stewart. Now, Shamar Stewart is an incredible talent. The old saying, a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. That's what 49er fans have on Shamar Stewart, is a little bit of knowledge. They have a little bit of knowledge that he had underwhelming sack production, and thus they think they know who he is. But you don't know who he is because he was a great player at Texas A&M. I watch Texas A&M football every week because I'm a Texas A&M fan, so I'm used to watching this player. This is a great football player. I said it before the draft. I said it during the draft. I said it after the draft. Shamar Stewart is going to be a better professional than Mikael Williams. I really believe that. He was a better college player than Mikael Williams, so he's probably going to be a better pro player. And the two of them together would give the Niners just the most dynamic duo of defensive linemen with guys who can play all over the place, inside, outside. You can stunt them, you can twist them, you can turn them, you can do all kinds of things. You can play games up front for days. And this, he's got a contractual situation in Cincinnati, and it's really nothing of his. It's all of the Bengals doing. Has nothing to do with Shamar. The Bengals are trying to introduce language into their contracts for their rookies that they have not included in past years that will negate guaranteed monies going to Shamar Stewart in this case if he has issues on or off the field. And he doesn't want that written into his contract. This is a new precedent that the Bengals are trying to establish in their own organization. And Stewart is not going for it, and nor should he. And his agent's not going for it, and nor should he. And now the Bengals are in a lurch because they've turned off Trey Hendrickson, who's their star pass rusher. They've paid other guys and haven't paid Hendrickson. Hendrickson's the guy they got to pay. Stewart is just there as a replacement for Hendrickson after they move Hendrickson, but I don't know if they're going to be able to move Hendrickson. Here's the rules as it pertains to Shamar Stewart. Cincinnati has until August the 5th, which basically means they've got 10 days. They got 10 days. Bengals have 10 days to either get Shamar Stewart's name on a contract or trade him. When you get to August 6th, they can no longer trade him. If he decides he wants to hold out, he goes back into the draft. They're precluded from redrafting him. They can't draft him even if they wanted to. So every other team in football can draft him. So if they don't trade him by August the 5th, 10 days from now, they could lose Shamar Stewart, the 17th pick in the first round, for absolutely nothing. Nothing. So they're under the gun. And somebody's going to fleece them for their first round pick. And all I'm saying is, why shouldn't it? Why couldn't it be the 49ers? To me, it makes perfect sense. Now, I'm going to share the screen because there's a lot of people on here who just think they know all about Shamar Stewart. Oh, he didn't have a lot of sack production. He sucks. He didn't have a lot of sack production, but it's because they lined him up all over the place. They lined him up inside. They lined him up in the 4-eye. They lined him up outside. He was not a designated pass rusher. He led A&M in pressures. All right. Here is some footage, a quick footage on Shamar. Little highlights of Shamar. Okay. Here he is right here, number 4. This guy's traits are off the chart, but it's not just traits. People act like, oh, he's just some workout warrior who didn't play well. No. This guy played really well. This guy, I'm telling you, I watch A&M football. This guy's motor is second to none. Do you know how many football players loaf at the end of games when the game's out of hand? Tons of them. This guy doesn't. This guy plays with his hair on fire all the time. They could be up 30. They could be down 30. This guy plays incredibly hard. He made a number of plays this year where he got penetration, flushed the quarterback, guy got rid of the ball. I mean, that would have been a sack if the quarterback holds onto the ball a half second. This is a really, really good football player. And as you can see here, a lot of times he's not lined up on the edge. In this defense, he would be a wide 9, get up the field rusher. He's great against the run. He's great against the run. He's really, really strong. You're talking about a guy that can do everything Mikael Williams can do and then some. This Mikael Williams and Shamar Stewart on the same line could be the defining players on this defense for years to come. This is a really, really good football player. And 49er fans feel like they know him because somebody said, he didn't have a lot of sack production. So what? Sacks are totally overrated. And sacks are predicated on a lot of other things that have nothing to do with the individual. So it's really about watch the film. And did he get pressure? And yes, he led A&M in pressure. Is he good against the run? Yes, he's great against the run. Does he set the edge? Yes, he sets the edge. Can you play him all over the formation? Yes. Can you utilize this guy with Bryce Huff and Nick Bosa and Mikael Williams at the same time? Yes. And you might be able to get him for less than he's actually worth, simply because they've got a few days to get it done. I'm going to share the screen on Todd McShay as well on this one. McShay broke him down. And if you don't want to believe me, maybe you'll believe Todd. Here is McShay doing a little breakdown of Shamar Stewart.
In love with his play. One of those guys, I personally right now have Shamar Stewart as number 3 edge in this class. Fell in love with his play. One of those guys, he's not like the elite first step and not elite speed, but the more you watch him and the hustle, and when it's 31-7 and he's giving all the best effort you've seen, as if the game's tied 7-7, it's the SEC championship game, and the power he has. Shamar Stewart is a player that we just coming into this process we're excited to see. 6'5", 281 pounds, 34.5-inch arm length, which is outstanding as an edge defender. We fell in love with him. I know I did, at least.
So he loves him. And I'm sure there's a lot of people, there's a lot of people saying to me, Krueg, why are you dying on this Shamar Stewart hill? Okay. Because I know what this guy is. And I know at some point, whether it be 3 months from now, 4 months from now, a year from now, people are going to look at Mikael Williams and what he's doing for the Niners, and they're going to look at Shamar Stewart and whatever he's doing for whatever team he's on, and they're going to say, oh, my God, they could have had Shamar Stewart. Oh, and then it's going to be back to everybody said they should go for Mikael, and then we're all going to be grouped together. Oh, everybody loved. No, I didn't. I like Shamar Stewart. I didn't think they were the same. I preferred Shamar Stewart. Shamar Stewart, I think, is going to be an outstanding NFL player. I really do. And if you could pick him off because the Bengals were idiots in how they went about their contractual breakdown and how they tried to get his name on the dotted line, and they decided to try to set a new precedent and sneak one over on him and his agent, and they weren't going for it. That's all going to be a footnote when this guy gets on the field and starts playing. He is a big-time player. And if I could add 3 players to the 49ers that would help them win the Super Bowl, give me a defensive end like a Shamar Stewart. Give me a veteran DB that can play all over the formation and be really, really good. That's Jalen Ramsay. And give me a receiver. Give me another receiver. Now, I threw out Aiyuk for McLaurin. I understand, the Commanders are going for it, and so they probably are not going to want an injured receiver, even though he's younger and their quarterback's best buddy. That deal probably doesn't fly. But guess what? There are going to be receivers available. Green Bay is going to move a receiver. I don't know if it'll be Romeo Doubs, but if it is, I'd be first in line to get him. There's going to be some receivers out there. Treylon Burks is available. There's going to be some receivers available, and I think the 49ers are going to be one receiver short. And the guy that I would be most intrigued by, if I could handpick it, to go with the deep speed of Jordan Watkins, the deep speed of Jacob Cowing, the potential deep speed of an Isaiah Nayer if Nayer somehow made an impact. I'd love to have that Debo piece. I'd love to have that screen pass run after the catch monster. And I think Malachi Corley absolutely could be that guy. And the fact that Robert Saleh a year ago was like, Malachi Corley no matter what, tells me that he probably still likes Malachi Corley. And that would be a guy. And if you look at the Jets depth chart, I would say it's 50-50 whether Corley makes the team. So you call him halfway through preseason and you say, here's a 6th-round pick. We'll take him before you cut him. There you go. That's the deal that I would make if I could. If I could get Malachi Corley, Shamar Stewart, and Jalen Ramsay, I'd feel like the 49ers would have a great shot of being the NFC participant in Super Bowl 60 at Levi's. All right, thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krueg Show. Thanks to Sharp Corners, Sports Cards, and Collectibles. And we should tell you that this video is also brought to you by our sponsor, Mancini's. That's right, Mancini's Sleep World. They've got the best price guarantee. They'll match the lowest prices you can find. They have their 365-night comfort guarantee, which means you get a full year to try it out. And they offer free next-day delivery. So if you've been thinking about upgrading your bed, now is the time. And make sure you use the code KRUEG10 at checkout, KRUEG 10 at checkout at any of Mancini's locations or online at sleepworld.com to save an additional 10%. And thanks to all of you for supporting The Krueg Show on YouTube.